Yesterday I went on a blind date, a double blind date with my friend and two girls. And I didn't like it, but I have a goal to eventually get married, so that's why I went. You have to meet people to get married, apparently. So it sucked having to go somewhere. And yeah, so my anxiety is always high whenever I like go outside and talk to people. So yeah, but my friend said I didn't look anxious. I just looked like I would rather be somewhere else, which was true. But his date asked both of us what we did for work, and he said iOS development, and she was like, "Okay, what do you do for fun?" And he's like, "I do music stuff," and she's like, "Oh, good. I respect that." But so many programmers just have side projects, and that's their hobby. And so I was kind of like this. It's not all I do, but I strongly believe in the importance of my side projects. I love working on them, so I'm going to do it. And they're not pointless. I actually just signed an NDA for Google because they're one of the teams is interested in a project I'm doing and how it might help. And so I consider that a huge success. It the fact that they would even know about it is just shocking to me. But it's something I've worked hard on. So to me, it's kind of like it's like the best case scenario. I want to influence with my ideas. So yeah, I feel like I live kind of a weird life. The one word I'd use to describe what it's like to be an INTJ is contrast. Contrast between me and other people, between my professional success and my failures with relationships, and what I can see in my head, and what I can communicate, and what is in the world around me. Contrast. When I think about things, sometimes it's like, have you ever been in a movie where the visual effects were really good, the sound was really good, the acting was great. It was just a really, really engaging movie, and you're completely absorbed in it. And you forgot what was happening around you. Like you barely paid attention, and then suddenly you remembered, oh, I'm in this place. Uh, except like, actually, it wasn't a movie. You were just thinking about things. Um, that's that's what happens to me a lot. I've done this my whole life. Um, when I was a kid, I had a teacher who called me Third Rock. He nicknamed me Third Rock because apparently there's a TV show called Third Rock from the Sun, and it's about a person who is living on Earth. He's an alien, but he's living on Earth as a human. So the idea is I was different from the other kids. And yeah, it was because I stared off a lot. And so a lot of fictional INTJs will do the same thing. Sherlock, the BBC series that he stares off for hours sometimes and like doesn't even realize time passed. I just watched The Queen's Gambit. It's a really really amazing show, and a lot of the time she will like look at the ceiling and see like a chess game, and she'll like imagine the pieces moving. And in one of the scenes, everybody in the room looks up to see what she's looking at. It's really funny. It's happened to me. I was having a job interview with the CEO of a company of like 100 people, so kind of small to mid startup, and I was answering a question. I was just kind of staring off to the side while answering because I was thinking about my answer, and he actually turned to look and see what I was looking at. I've been on dates where they did that because they were trying to see what I was looking at, and that's just kind of how it works. Some things are so complex that you literally can't comprehend them without borrowing your visual cortex and using visual symbols to help. This is what intuition does the most out of like all the functions. It just to understand seemingly unrelated things, it just ropes in the entire brain. Like they do like fMRI, Dario Nardi, he's done this and he sees like consistent patterns when INTJs are thinking about the future or complicated answers. Their brain will kind of go in like a every region is involved type of state. And so yeah, I literally can't see what's around me and these ideas at the same time. So this happens a lot. It actually freaks some people out. They literally have no idea what to make of it. They never met anybody who uses their whole brain to think about things. It's kind of crazy. And so most people don't really know what it's like to think really hard about something. When I was a kid, I had no idea how lazy and apathetic and incompetent most people were. I had no idea. I was really naive. But if you actually enjoy thinking, you don't have to even be like a freak of nature or anything. The contrast between you and other people will grow more and more stark until it is difficult to comprehend. I mean, just think what happens if you listen to psychology lectures for 30 minutes on your commute every day for 2 years and compare that to somebody who listens to music or some random fiction audiobook or some other stuff that occupies their mind but doesn't improve their world model, their mental model of the world. The difference between you after the 2 years is going to be extremely big. So I did that. I was listening to psychology lectures and I wondered, like, how much do I actually know? So I took a practice GRE, and that's the graduate records examination. It's required for grad school for psychology, and I scored 30% higher than psychology majors. So, or I scored higher than 30% of psychology majors. So that was crazy. Like, and if you do this, you just incrementally consume things over time. It's like, an airplane that's like half a degree off after a long period of time, they're going to be super far apart. So that's just how it is, especially as an INTJ whose hobby is to understand the world. So yeah, many personality types actually really enjoy generating conceptual understanding, and they become different from other people. This is true of all intuitives, especially. But I think INTJs in particular take it to another level because I think there might be something between so intuition has to come first, but it's like the introverted intuition that can explore ideas like at the speed of thought and really can go on tangents, but also uses the extroverted thinking to it's like a feedback loop. And so you think like, okay, use logic to explore in one direction, and then intuition to explore in like the familiar direction. So the fuzzy intuition direction. And so you have like both systems that are exploratory. And so, yeah, the INFJ is a bit like it too, but I think that it gets especially extreme with INTJs. Carl Jung said about both types, the introverted, intuitive, dominant, the peculiar nature of introverted intuition, when given the priority, also produces a peculiar type of man. He may even become a complete enigma to his own immediate circle. Yeah, I have an INFJ brother who said that whenever he doesn't understand somebody, he makes it a point to focus on really understanding them and to try really hard to just, understand what makes them tick, understand what they care about, and just get them, just get them as a person. And he said he tried when we were roommates in college. He said he tried for a whole year and he didn't. He still doesn't understand me at all. That's what he said. So it is possible to develop a mental model of the world that is so drastically different for most people in so many ways. Is it possible if you develop a mental model that's so different? Is it even possible to have normal relationships? Because people used to think that politics and science were irrelevant topics for everyday life. And then COVID happened. And suddenly, even people we're close to, if they have a difference in opinion, suddenly those opinions have to do with everyday life. And so it turns out that if you don't have the same worldview, you can't even live with a lot of people. You literally can't agree on the most basic decisions of everyday life. So near the beginning, if you didn't understand exponential growth, you may have been one of the ones that said, no worries. And then later on, if you don't have an adult perspective on organizations where they can be corrupt and incentives can be corrupt, you might be too trusting of institutions to the point where you're like hyper vigilant, even when it makes no sense if you look at the statistics. So if you have a weak world model, you're going to follow your instincts, and they're going to take you to one extreme or the other. And so that's why it became a political issue, because people are stupid. They literally aren't smart enough to be able to consume enough information to have a mental model that's appropriate to handling a problem like COVID in a way that's even close to sane. So you have extremes on both ends. And there are a lot of people in the middle. I was in the middle. And you can't be extreme if you understand reality, because reality is really nuanced. Literally everything that is true is part of it. And so it is true that there are dangerous viruses sometimes. And it's true that you're not invulnerable. But it's also true that you should pay attention to statistics. So, but imagine having a different worldview from 99% of people on most things. Most people don't even understand basic geography. Most adults never read books. Most adults don't understand basic probability. Some people actually make a conscious decision to gamble, like to go to a casino and actually put money in there. They don't think for a second, like, wait, why does this building exist? Or maybe they don't think that it's down to physics and probability and mechanics to how the slot machines work. And so just imagine, and it's not even some people, it's a lot of people. It's not just slot machines, it's a lot of ways that people gamble, and they expect to have exceptions made for them in all kinds of special ways. And just imagine what it's like to have that worldview that generates the idea that that decision's good. Most adults don't have any idea about what exponential growth is, or that literally everything around us exists because of it. And I could go on and on and on and on about basic aspects of reality that most people are completely oblivious to. So, yeah. When I look around, the world I see doesn't surprise me very often. I feel like I have a good handle on most things. And so as I've gotten older, the more I've learned, the gap between the world I see and the world other people see has grown so wide that it's literally incomprehensible to them. So to really understand other people, you can't just look at their decisions and kind of reason like, why would I make that decision? You have to look at the decision and try to infer the world model that they have that would make that decision look like the right decision. Because they made the decision. They thought it was the correct decision. Imagine what, like, let's take an example. Imagine somebody who gets in a fist fight on an airplane. Every once in a while you see a video like that of somebody freaking out. Aside from like an extreme medical condition, and that's another aspect of the world that you need to understand, that some people have just physical problems in their brains. Okay, I know a lot of people wouldn't even understand that, but so to understand this situation, you have to keep in mind that that's a possibility. But you know through everyday experience that some people have short tempers. But like, imagine seeing the world through their eyes. Imagine seeing the world through the eyes of somebody who yells at like a fast food employee because of something that was out of their control. Like, imagine yelling at a customer support person because a website's broken. Like, imagine actually yelling at somebody who has nothing to do with the problem. Like imagine what world they see. They literally see the person who's answering the phone call as equivalent to the website. Their image of what a website is and what an organization is so fuzzy that they treat every component of it the same. Even to the point of being counterproductive to their own goals. So, yeah, you can look at every stupid decision a person makes and try to imagine the world that they see that causes them to think that their decision was the right one. And you'll be surprised at you realize that we don't live in the same world as other people. Even if you take just two random people, they have similar instincts, they have similar desires, but the chance that they're actually living in the same world is extremely small. Like, I know somebody who sucked at geography so bad that they didn't even know that Canada was north. And like, whenever they hear about Canada, what do they think of? What is that? And that has nothing to do with making decisions unless they're like trying to navigate. Then maybe they look at a map. But even that, maybe they don't trust maps. Maybe they don't trust their ability to read maps. And so the decision to interrupt somebody's day to ask for directions when you already have a basic layout of where things are and you just need to know your literal relation to magnetic north or north. So basically I'm saying, like, what matters most for people's behavior is like two things. It's their worldview and their inner state of emotions and their their goals. And so it's extremely difficult to underestimate how different other people's worldviews are from our own. So anyway, this produces tangible, day-to-day differences in the way people live their lives. And so it makes it difficult for somebody who understands things really well to be able to agree with people on decisions, not just the abstract reality itself, like the ideas and the labels and the terms that you're using, but the decisions that are smart. So these things are relevant. So having a high resolution worldview is basically like a superpower. And that's why I love it. It lets you do everything you want to. You can see a clear path. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything. But, that comes at a cost. And I wouldn't even trade it for, better relationships with the people around me, because to me, it's the number one thing. It's like a drug. Understanding things, to me, there's literally nothing more interesting to me in life than understanding things. So rather than try to lessen that, I try to focus on education, and I'm interested in building technology that will help education. But for now, my life is just gonna kind of be like, it's like an experience I had a couple years ago where I gave a talk in front of 1,500 people, and I had ideas were like over here, and then this is where their minds were, and I picked things that were somewhat close to where they were already, so things that I thought that they would be able to appreciate, and they loved it, and so it was really loud, they cheered, and the lights were bright on the stage, and it was kind of a surreal experience. And I walked off the stage, and I walked, and the sound faded, and then I was by myself again, and I started thinking about these things up here again. And that contrast represents what my life has turned more into the older I've gotten. like the difference in how I see the world and the things I understand has made me very weird compared to other people. Very, very weird. Like I was explaining to a friend that my brain was trying to get me to do something, and he thought it was so weird that I was talking about my brain that way. And admittedly, I am my brain, but at the same time, uh, it's hard to identify with any one particular part of your brain. And so I had that in mind when I was saying that. And so, yeah, just the way you phrase things, the way you act, everything just becomes weird. And I think that is probably a pretty common experience for INTJs. So, yeah, that's what my life is like. And it's super late right now, so I'm going to end this. It's almost 4 a.m. So, thanks for watching. And I'd love to hear funny experiences where you encountered a stupid person, or you did something weird because of different beliefs you had. Anyway, all right, I'm done with this video. I'm too tired to make this interesting anymore. So if it ever was, but all right, see ya.